YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Gavv episode 29? I think it's 29. I keep forgetting the episodes. For whatever reason, when we get like into the lower 20s and lower 30s, I always forget the exact episode. But the title will be right, probably, or at least eventually. Anyway, this was an okay episode. It was very strange because in a way it felt like a season 2 premiere. Not like a big season 2 premiere, but in a way that like recently Rider has been doing this thing where you section off the story into arcs. I think starting with 0-1 is where I really felt that, but like with Geats they did it by the game. Last year with Gotchard, you know, we had Fire Gotchard and stuff come in, which felt like the start of a new arc. So you know what I'm talking about, where Rider has this structure where it almost does feel like separate little seasons. We've seen that recently with Sentai with stuff like King Oger and The Lapse and Boom Boonger. But I feel like, at least for me personally, though we have had individual storylines, it felt like it's been pretty continuous with Gavv so far, and this was the first time we felt like we were starting like a new arc. We even had a month time jump where we catch everything up, and it felt like a season 2 premiere. Again, not like a big season 2 premiere where you're introducing big stuff, but it felt like a bit of a reset into a new storyline. But before we get started with that, I wanted to address Sugga's death, which I guess I'm stupid, which I know I am, but I did not believe Sugga was dead until obviously this episode where they say basically he's dead and Lakia takes over his little apartment lab thing. But other than that, I didn't think about that until people were saying, oh, he got his flowers, which usually, if you don't know, toku actors will get flowers when they wrap their final day on set. Although, I don't pay attention to that much, honestly, to be honest. I just see it sometimes on my feed when characters will get flowers. Usually I only see it like at the end of the series, but I don't like track that usually. But I feel like there has been cases of that happening and then the character coming back. I feel like I remember that happening with Sonoi on Dawn Brothers, but don't quote me on that. Regardless though, I honestly thought Sugga was just kind of knocked out and then Neville was gonna basically kidnap him and he wouldn't be around for a little while. And I still think that's what's happening because I feel like they just got into his story. Like, he's obviously been around for 28 episodes, or mostly, you know what I mean, but they've been building it, but it was really just in these last couple episodes where things kicked in particular the big reveal about his motivations with what is presumed to be his son, and I can't imagine that you would reveal that just to have it like fizzle out or to be revealed later, like if Neville picks this up and they learn like, oh, Sugga was actually doing it for this reason and he never shows up again. So I fully expect him to show up again. Otherwise, this episode was pretty low-key. Like, we recap basically that everyone's just been working together. Valen thanked the uncle for making him a belt. Like I said, Lakia moved into the place that Sugga was staying at. The biggest thing we got was kind of a refocus on the Stomach family, as I believe their name is Neb. They come back in, the one that lost their twin, and they get married to this character whose name is like Jank. I'm gonna call it Jank because I think that's fun. Tony Stank Jank, who is the daughter of the president, I guess the president of the Granite World. And that's kind of interesting, this kind of development of presumably like a governmental character being mixed up with the corporate stuff of Stomach. That is kind of interesting, and there wasn't a whole lot with that, but that is an interesting setup, which I presume is going to be the focus. And some people were commenting last week how it'll be nice to get back to the Stomach characters because they've been kind of sidelined for Sugga and other stuff with Bitter Gavv, which I didn't really think about that much, just because I was enjoying Gavv so much, there wasn't really too much I was putting thought into for that. But that is a good point. Like, they are good characters, and I think it's time we refocus on them a bit. And I am interested to see how this storyline plays out with this sort of element of the president and all that, and how that might play into the politics of the Stomach world. But that was really the only major thing that happened. The case of the week was rather quick in terms of, you have them at this basketball game, and we meet this Granite that I guess is like picking the winners or whatever, and kidnapping them, and he does clock that Lakia is there, but he's like, ah, it's too much hassle. Like, even later when he runs into him, he's like, oh my god, it's him, but then he just kind of walks away like he was going to let it go, but of course, they weren't going to let it go, and they end up fighting him at the end. It just kind of felt like an afterthought, because like, oh, we have to have a fight. We do debut the popcorn gachizo, which really just gives him the power to fire off little exploding popcorns, which is kind of fun. It kind of reminds me of those little, I don't know if they're really firecrackers, because I was never much of a firecracker guy, but you know when you go to a 4th of July thing and they have those little snapping things you throw at people's feet, it reminded me of that. Admittedly, I'm a little disappointed because I would have been curious what a popcorn form looked like with the design team for this, because I thought that's pretty cool. Yeah, but after that fight, you just cliffhanger with the new villain showing up. It was a very simple episode. I wouldn't call it a bad episode. It was just kind of one of the weaker episodes. It was kind of easing you into some of the new elements for this story, but there wasn't a whole lot to it, to be honest. So yeah, it was one of the weaker episodes, but I'm interested to see what comes next with the Stomach family and with Sugga, if he does eventually show back up. Do you guys think Sugga is still alive? I personally do. But until next time, let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments as always. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Kamen Rider, signing out.